Hi guys, today's the 27th of January 2019, 7:42 in the evening over here in the UK, and it's coming up to the 31st, and we're looking out for retaliations from Iran against Israel. And we've got this report. Hezbollah warns Israel of combined attack on Tel Aviv with Iran and Syria. Hezbollah's leader says his militant group could join with Iran and Syria to strike back at Tel Aviv if Israel continues to hit Iranian and Hezbollah targets in Syria. Hassan Nasrallah on January 26 said that what he calls the axis of resistance is considering its response to Israeli targets, or Israeli strikes, and warned Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu not to make an error of judgment and don't lead the region toward war or a major clash. At any moment, the Syrian leadership and the axis of resistance can take a decision to deal with the Israeli aggression in a different manner, Nasrallah said. Israel has pledged to stop Iran from entrenching itself militarily in Syria, carrying out hundreds of airstrikes there against what it describes as Iranian targets in Syria and those of allied militia, including the Lebanon-based Shiite militant group Hezbollah. Russia has also called on Israel to stop carrying out arbitrary airstrikes on Syrian territory days after the Israeli Air Force targeted what Israel said were Iranian forces in the war-torn country. The practice of arbitrary strikes on the territory of a sovereign state, in this case we are talking about Syria, should be ruled out, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said in Moscow on January 23rd. Russia, along with Iran, has provided Syrian President Bashar al-Assad with crucial military support throughout the 7-year Syrian war, which has killed hundreds of thousands of people and displaced millions. So we have to look out for the potential of multiple strikes on Israel by Iran, Hezbollah and Syria in retaliation for Israel strikes on Iran in Syria, and it's coming up to the 31st, and they are considering their response, although I'm almost certain that that response has already been considered, because Iran just wrapped up large-scale military drills aiming at offensive tactics. The large-scale military drills of the Iranian army's ground forces in the central country was wrapped up on yesterday, seeking to practice offensive tactics. The massive war game, codenamed Iqtidar, lasted for 2 days in a vast area in Nasrabad region in Iran's central province of Isfahan. A total of 12,000 army forces took in the exercise, carrying out new offensive tactics in accordance with structural changes in the army ground force. Commander of the Iranian Army Ground Force, Brigadier General Kiomaz Haidari said, the commander said the Army Ground Force had developed a new structure in its units, adopting an offensive approach. On Saturday, the Army's units practiced a tactic to prevent the enemy from closing in on the battlefield by creating a long row of blasts using remote-controlled land bombs during a military exercise, according to Tasnim news agency. So they've just wrapped up their military drills. They're considering a response against Israel along with Syria. Sorry, one sec. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so they're considering a response along with Syria and Hezbollah, and it's possible that could come on the 31st. If not, I've still got a different interpretation for the 31st, which is still within the year of the dog time frame. It's just adding the 3 and the 1 together, making the number 4. So looking at the 4th, and again, it kind of makes sense if they do that, because if we're looking at the 3rd and we've got all these different events we're looking out for, volcanic eruptions, stadiums collapsing, all sorts of different things, then it may be that after that they decide to, retaliate. The other theory is they retaliate on the 31st and it escalates up towards the 4th, where after the 3rd and the tsunami scenarios that we're talking about, then Iran comes out and blocks the Strait of Hormuz. That makes more sense to me, because in the IPEC Goat 2 video, we see Osama bin Laden representing Iran coming out on the iceberg, representing a ship or an air carrier or something of that kind, with soldiers also representing missiles coming out to block the Strait of Hormuz, while there is a tsunami moving towards New York in the very next frame. So it looks as if they come out while the tsunami is moving forward, so that would be around the end of the 3rd coming on to the 4th, and that makes even more sense as well, because if that happens, it would be something happening on the 3rd, Iran coming out earlier on the 4th, and then later, just as it moves into the 5th, that's when we'd have China coming forward, just as it's turning to the new year, the year of the pig, and then we have, the scenario for World War. At the same time, while the Middle East is ready to devolve into all-out war with Israel, we have the South America ready to devolve in all-out war with Venezuela. It may not come to that, but it seems well timed that these tensions are escalating around this time. Venezuela being a very rich country in terms of oil, similar to Iran, and we do have a focus on oil in the IPEC Go2 video. It kind of makes sense, and with the stock market plunging as well, that would also contribute towards that. So just looking at that side of things, it looks like there's a connection. But we also know that Russia has put 2 nuclear-capable bombers in Venezuela. Seems they put them there for a reason, to deter the United States from engaging with Venezuela militarily, which may become an option if it comes down to it, because Maduro doesn't look like he's going to be giving up power anytime soon. Juan Guaido has declared himself president, but the military is not behind him, so that's pretty big, especially in a country like Venezuela. And more importantly, on Saturday, yesterday, France, Germany, Britain, and Spain set an 8-day deadline for calling new elections for recognizing Guaido's leadership. 8 days from the 26th brings us to the 3rd of February. So on the 3rd of February, if Maduro hasn't called new elections by that time, France, Germany, Britain, and Spain are declaring their support for Juan Guaido, and obviously that will throw the situation into quick decline, because obviously countries like Iran, China, Russia, Mexico have come out in support of Maduro. So again, all over the world, you've got these tensions between these two massive, I don't know how you describe them, alliances building up, and they're ready to go off all over the world, essentially. So I find it interesting, and the other reference that they've got here, in reference to Venezuela, is it's play ball for Venezuela's besieged socialist government. And obviously, with the reference to the Super Bowl and the reference to the West Ham Liverpool football game in the UK, the play ball reference is something that catches my attention. So that's why I bring it to you. The last thing I want to talk about is the potential for an asteroid sighting or strike during this time period as well. They're using this reference threefold. They're saying the Earth has been hit by meteors 3 times as much as it used to. Saying it's increased by threefold, which is basically a focus on the number 3, and how we're looking at the 3rd of February. Again, it just calls out to me. But at the same time, when I look at this part of the video, it's clear that we're seeing something, a shadow or something, and obviously that would be coming from the sky. Whatever it is, we're not shown completely, but it's clear. Sorry, it's clear that it's coming around the time of the Chinese New Year, which kind of puts into maybe being sighted around the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and obviously we've talked about the potential for meteor or asteroid impacts, whether they're real or false, and we've also talked about how that's displayed in multitudes of media, obviously Armageddon and Deep Impact being one of the first 2 movies to come to mind. So that's it really. Just keep an eye out for those things as well as all the other things, and be cautious. As I say, the real next event I'm looking out for here is the 30th with Donald Trump. Obviously, I know that's another reference to 3 if you take away the 0, so could be looking at February the 3rd again for something else happening, which is, it's not how I don't know. Having it all happen on one day is the worst way it can really happen, is what I'm basically trying to say. I don't want it to happen at all, but if it was to happen, it would be easier to manage happening on separate days. But, you know, if you just have one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, then I guess that is biblical 1 hour destruction, essentially. Something like that. So you guys keep your eyes open. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.